Here we go. All right, we're on, guys. Welcome, everyone. This is Doug with my sister Shoshana, and my brother Dennis, my sister Sally, and my sister Laura. And we are the Awakened by Yahuwah fellowship group. We are going through the book of Enoch. You can see our previous studies on my YouTube channel, which is DOUGLAS BONINSEGNA. So that is my YouTube account that we're having our studies uploaded to directly from the Zoom meeting. Soon we will have it on our group page on YouTube, which is Awakened by Yahuwah. So you guys can check that out whenever you want. So we will be continuing in the book of Enoch, chapter 25, and here we go. And he said unto me, Enoch, why do you ask me regarding the fragrance of the tree, and why do you wish to learn the truth? Then I answered him, saying, I wish to know about everything, but especially about this tree. He answered, saying, the high mountain which you have seen, whose summit is like the throne of Yahuwah, is his throne, where the set-apart great one, the master of esteem, the eternal king, will sit, when he shall come down to visit the earth with goodness. And as for this fragrant tree, no mortal is permitted to touch it till the great judgment. Wonder if this is the tree of life. When he, yeah, it's interesting. It says until the great judgment, so that's interesting. Like, what is the phrase I'm looking for? That's like a cutoff point. When he shall take vengeance on all and bring everything to its consummation forever, it shall then be given to the righteous and set apart. Its fruit shall be for good to the chosen. It shall be transplanted to the set apart place, to the temple of Yahuwah, the eternal king. So this tree of knowledge actually is going to be moved to the temple of Yahuwah. That's kind of interesting. Then shall they rejoice with joy and be glad, and into the set apart place shall they enter. And its fragrance shall be in their bones, and they shall live a long life on earth, such as your fathers lived. And in their days shall no sorrow or plague or torment or calamity touch them. Then I blessed the Elohim of esteem, the eternal king, who has prepared such things for the righteous, and has created them and promised to give to them. Wow. So a lot of correlations with the new heaven and new earth with this chapter. That's pretty much what I got. So
Doug, do you know the in the Sefer is a different chapter? I can't find it.
Well, this one does not have a chapter 11.
But I think it might be chapter 26 that you read in your book instead of 25.
oh yeah, depending on what version you guys have, it might be 26 or 25, depending on which version you have. Now mine says 25, the one I just read, but it's possible, Shoshana, if you have a different one, it might have been 26. So I know the
Mine is your Sefer.
yeah, from I guess whatever chapter it is that had the verses I was reading from, I guess is the chapter I read. I know mine was 25, not 26. So it's possible that in your translation or your version that it was 26.
Look at it. Let's see.
Yeah, and I noticed mine. He provides. Skiba actually provides in certain chapters of Enoch. He'll give you parallels between the Ethiopian version and the Greek version. So.
And the valley between them. But then
Wow, it's different.
yeah, it's totally different.
That's totally different. I'm gonna put my dog up.
Was there a difference, Dennis, with what I just read in your guys' version?
Yeah, it's quite a bit different. And I'm trying to find it now. I'm gonna have to look at hers and see if I can find where it's close.
Okay. All right. So let me know if anyone wants to read next. If not, I can read the next chapter. But if anyone wants to jump in and read, just let me know. Okay, so we're at chapter 26. The title for my translation, and I'm reading from the original English translated R.H. Charles version of Enoch. So the title for this is Yerushalayim or Yerushalayim, and the mountains, ravines, and streams. And it says, and I went from there to the middle of the earth. So interesting, middle of the earth. And I saw a blessed place. Oh, you found it?
Yes, and mine says middle of the earth and middle of the mountain instead of the earth.
So the wording's a little different. That's interesting. So it's like reversed. That's weird. So I went from the middle of the earth. I saw a barak place in which there were trees with branches abiding and blooming of a dismembered tree. There I saw a set apart mountain, and underneath the mountain to the east there was a stream, and it flowed towards the south. And I saw towards the east another mountain, higher than this, and between them a deep and narrow ravine. In it also ran a stream underneath the mountain, and to the west thereof there was another mountain, lower than the former, and of small elevation, and a raven deep and dry between them, and another deep and dry ravine was at the extremities of the three mountains, and all the ravines were deep and narrow, being formed of rock, and trees were not planted upon them. And I marveled at the rocks, and I marveled at the ravine. Yea, I marveled very much. So this is interesting. So
I wonder with the middle of the earth. You know, you've seen so much on the internet laid out the hollow earth. Makes me think when it says the middle of the earth, think about hollow earth.
So, you know, that's where Arnie's acting.
yeah, that's a very good point, Shushan. I was actually going to bring that up because it's kind of funny how certain translations translate a verse in the book of Job where Satan says, I've been run to and fro and in the earth, meaning inside of it. And so it's kind of interesting that Satan is saying he's went inside the earth. And so there's a concept that a theory that there is a hollowed part of the earth underground, like maybe the Sheol area, where there's possible, races of, supposedly hybrid races live down there, and, these weird type of reptilians live down there. That's the theories. But I definitely believe there's a fact to this hollow earth idea. What's down there, I have no idea. All I know is that
the things that what was his name that flew over the North Pole?
General Bird.
Bird, yeah.
Yeah.
Admiral Bird.
Yeah.
I remember seeing an interview where he talked about seeing woolly mammoths it's like suddenly the ice disappeared and he went down into a deep valley or ravine that had lush vegetation, and he saw woolly mammoths. And
I saw that movie too.
that was on an actual interview with Admiral Byrd. They hushed him up after that. They didn't allow him to speak about it anymore.
That's where the Nazi base was.
Well, the Nazi base is in the Antarctica.
Antarctica, yeah.
This was the North Pole that he was talking about.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And you just know, I mean, the place where we live, we've been lied to all of our lives about everything is right, and especially the earth. We're here, we've been lied to. We don't know things.
The sad thing is, the reason we have been lied to about is because they try to make those creations insignificant.
Yes, that's what they do. They try to minimize mankind and make it as though we are nothing compared to this vast universe out there. And the truth is, Scripture says the sun, moon, and stars all revolve around the earth, and the earth is motionless. It does not move. So how could we be a rotating ball moving around a sun in a solar system when Scripture says the exact opposite?
How can we evolve when there are four corners?
Yes, and I absolutely do believe Scripture over what we've been taught.
Well, even the Chinese had it right. On their old maps, they showed the ends of the earth. And they showed serpents and dragons at the edges. But they're right because you look at the Nazis and stuff, they're serpents and dragons.
Well, we've been given the authority to trample on serpents and scorpions.
Right.
Yeah. So, if it is talking about Middle Earth, then perhaps there's a lot about the place where we live that we will find out about.
Oh yeah.
As soon as Yahushua sends Yahusha to kingdom, and
yeah, everything will be known.
We will know all things at that time. We will actually know what he knows, and that will be exciting.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. That I always find it interesting about the Hollow Earth because it makes a lot of sense with Enoch and about Tartarus and where these Malachim are pretty much in prison, but they're not dead. They're not, it's not like they're in Sheol in the grave. they're in chains and being held down there. So, and if Satan is roaming around in the earth, not just to and fro, but actually going through the earth,
Yeah.
it's kind of weird, like why he would be doing that. Like that's like, what purpose would he have going underground and doing all that? Like, it's kind of weird. Like, is he trying to? Was even back then he had schemes or something going on? Because it's very weird to think that he would be saying, especially telling you that he's doing that. It's like he's almost acting like that's a normal thing to do. Like, and Yahuwah doesn't even question him about it. He doesn't really like comment on the fact that the devil said, I've been to and fro going through the earth, and so I don't know. I just find that interesting, and you know, and even back then, technically, even after the Garden of Eden, he was still allowed access in the heavens, in the Shamayim. He was not, and that's why I believe his actual fall to the earth happens way later. And that's why I disagree with theologians that he fell in the garden. Because if he fell to earth in the garden, then he wouldn't be able to go to Yahuwah's throne room. Being a council of the heavenly hosts. It says that he presented himself with the sons of Elohim, and so he was literally before Yahuwah, in probably the third heaven, around the book of Job. So that's why I believe that his actual initial physical fall to the earth and being kicked out of Yahuwah's throne room would be, when Yahusha was about to be born. And that's kind of what I believe on that one. That's what I kind of find interesting with certain stuff with books like the Book of Job kind of reveals stuff that is kind of overlooked. So I don't know. I was going on a little bit of a tangent there, but I just that just brought up something to me about that whole thing. So I don't know.
Looking at, and it says when the dragon saw he'd been thrown to earth, he began to persecute the birth of a male child, and that would be the believers, the Israelite believers. So if you're Israel and you believe in the Messiah, you're being persecuted by the dragon who was thrown to the earth.
Yeah, at that moment, I believe that prophecy was also referring to a backdrop of Satan trying to stop Yahusha from being born, because quite literally he had Herod tried to kill Yahusha as a baby, and I believe that prophecy was foreshadowed in the birth of Yahusha, where it says the dragon was trying to stop the man-child from being born, and the man-child that would rule the nations with a rod of iron. So Miriam and Joseph did have a type of wilderness-like type of thing because they fled to Egypt. So I believe the first foreshadowing was literally like Satan trying to stop Yahusha from being born, but then obviously later on, in the end times, it's going to be us that he's going to be coming after, and we are the remnant of her seed. We are the remnant of the seed of the woman, and it goes right back to Genesis 3:15, where
I hope I'm the woman the remnant, because the Roman is the one who hates. He goes after the remnant.
Yeah. Says the remnant of her seed, and obviously there's a connection between that and Revelations 14:12, because 14:12 tells you who the remnant is. It's those that keep the commandments of Yahuwah and the belief of Yahusha. So it's pretty much a group that is pretty much singled out, because you have some people that only have faith in Messiah. It's not talking about them. And you have people in Judaism who claim that they keep the law of Moses, but they really don't. But either way, even if they did, they would only have half of the requirements. So it's like it's a special group of people that it's talking about. It has the faith and the works, and it's a very small group. That's why they're called the set apart ones, which pretty much, in other literature, as we see in the book of Enoch, set apart ones can also mean host of heaven, which is kind of interesting. There's a connection between, Yahuwah's heavenly army and us. And so it's kind of interesting to note that, the word that they use, saints, Revelations 14:12, is the same word the book of Enoch uses a lot to refer to Yahuwah's heavenly host. So it's kind of interesting that he calls the remnant of her seed the set apart ones. So it's like it's a very exclusive group of believers. It's definitely not a wide. It's not many people that he's going to be after. He's going to be after a specific group in the body of Messiah. So,
And I'm sure that a woman also guards the commandments of Yahuwah and possesses this of Yahushua HaMashiach, because she is protected. The only reason that the remnant, who's also guarding the commandments and possessing the witness of Messiah, are not protected, it tells you in Daniel that they have to have their robes washed white. I believe it's Daniel 11, where it tells you that some of the set apart ones have to endure the Great Tribulation in order to have their robes washed white.
yeah, I'm pretty sure a woman always in prophecy refers to assembly. As far as I know, a woman usually represents a body of believers. Whether it's good or whether it's bad, a woman's always representing that. And even in a bad way in Revelations, you have this woman sitting on a beast, and obviously this woman, is representing a false bride, a false assembly that, is riding the anti-Messiah. And she's also categorized quite literally in a metaphoric term that she's that great city. So I think most of the time in prophecy, to your credit, a woman is represented as a assembly. But for the harlot can actually probably be a false bride, or even defined as that great city. So it's kind of interesting. Like she's defined as the Vatican basically, and that's what the harlot is, because it says that she's that great city that sits on the 7 hills. And as far as I know, the only city on the earth that I know that sits on 7 hills, and fits all the requirements of Revelation 17 would have to be the Vatican. It's pretty much the plus the fact the scarlet, the purple, the golden cup, the abominations, Mystery Babylon the Great written on her forehead, knowing that the Vatican pretty much came from Mystery Babylon, and the Catholic Church pretty much was a disguise for Mystery Babylon to make people think that, the Catholic Church is Christian. That pretty much was what happened. Was paganism was hidden in a veneer of Christianity, and that's how people get deceived, because they don't realize she's Babylon, and that's why it says Mystery Babylon the Great. So it's like a mystery that she's Babylon. But anyway.
All right, move on.
Yeah. We are at chapter 27, and it says the purpose of the accursed valley. Do you want to read?
I'll read.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll read.
Let me mute myself.
This for what object this Baruch land, which is entirely filled with trees, and this accursed between. Then Uriel, one of the set apart angels who was with me, answered and said, this valley is for those who are accursed forever. Here shall all the accursed be gathered together, who utter their lips against the Master unseemly words, and of his esteem speak hard things. Here shall they be gathered together, and here shall be their place of judgment. In the last days there shall be upon them a spectacle of righteous judgment in the presence of the righteous forever. Here shall the merciful Baruch Master of esteem, eternally. In the days of judgment over the former, they shall vote him for the mercy in accordance with which he assigned them their lot. And I master's esteem, and laud him magnificently. Now there's a place you don't want to end up.
Wow. I mean, this kind of reminds me of how the heathen, they always curse Yahuwah. They always, say nasty words and all these blasphemies.
Yeah.
And one really appalling movie recently that just showed me like this world's outlook on Yahuwah was a movie. I think it was called Dogma. It was supposed to be like a comedy by Kevin Smith, and pretty much Matt Damon and Ben Affleck played two fallen angels. Funny enough, in this movie where they're criticizing Yahuwah, saying they're putting the truth in plain sight. They're saying oh, I hate the humans. He made them so much better than us. He favors them over us, and blah blah blah. Like how they're so jealous, and so it was just amazing to me to see. That's pretty much in a way people that don't believe have that same mentality. They're always looking at Yahuwah like he's the bad guy, and always trying to curse at him. But Yahuwah is the one that actually cares for them. But yet they're gonna say all these words of blasphemy at him and, curse him. And, and pretty much this chapter is talking about that's what happens when people, do that. That who is going to judge these people for what they have said to him. It's just pretty interesting. Especially there's like a combination of the Greek and Ethiopian versions that Skiba puts in this chapter to compare. But the Greek says, "Here shall they be gathered together, and here shall be the place of their habitation." And so that's kind of interesting. The Greek uses habitation, but the Ethiopian Enoch uses judgment. Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting too, and I like, is the fact of some of the titles they actually give Yahuwah in the Book of Enoch. I've noticed they give him the Master of Esteem, the Eternal King. So I really do like the type of basically like nicknames or titles they give him. I think there's another one. It's called like the Master of Spirits. He's sometimes called an Enoch also. Now, what's interesting too is in the Greek, in verse 4 in this chapter says, "In the days of judgment over the former, they shall bless him for the mercy in accordance with which he has assigned them." And there's a parenthesis added here that says their lot. Huh. So I see a lot of the white throne judgment kind of being hinted at in these two chapters so far. I see no, I just wondered what the accursed valley actually is, and wonder where it would be. Like, I wonder if this is like part of Sheol, or it's just interesting how the accursed valley, they don't say where exactly it is. Just, I don't know, that kind of interested me, where they're walking around. I don't know. So anyway, so we have chapter 28, which mine gives a title saying "Further Journey to the East." So that's interesting. And I guess I'll read chapter 28. This is going to be a really quick one. Okay, let me see. "And there I went towards the east into the middle of the mountain range of the desert, and I saw a wilderness, and it was solitary, full of trees and plants. And water gushed forth from above, rushing like a copious watercourse, which flowed towards the northwest. It caused clouds and dew to ascend on every side." So this is interesting. This is talking about, the waters of above gushing out. Because in context, it's talking about that they went to east on the earth, like the direction of east, and they went to a mountain range, and that was in the desert, and then they went into a wilderness, and in the wilderness, you had the rain of heaven coming out. So very interesting. Kind of like where Yahuwah always talks about the dew of heaven. So there's like a correlation there, and it kind of reminded me of the waters above the waters.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. It says the copious amounts of water, like gushed forth from the heavens above, and towards the north wind caused clouds and dew to ascend on every side. That's a very interesting description, and I'm not sure what time period this is referring to.
That sounds like, how we see, like, when we're walking in the mountains, and we see a higher mountain, how the waterfalls come down with all the, trees around and whatnot.
And it's got trees and plants. And
Well, this is definitely. I would say this was, well, the timeline, obviously, we know that Enoch takes place between Genesis chapter 6 and Genesis chapter 7. Most of this book takes place around that time period. So I would have to say it's somewhere before the flood, because you have when the flood happened, it actually says in Genesis that the waters from beneath and the waters from above came on the earth. So we still had waters in the firmament back then in Genesis 7. So and I don't think it ever changed after that. A lot of scholars like to say that there was no more waters in the firmament after the flood, but I believe there was. Yahuwah still had the waters above the waters, and nothing really changed after the flood. The only thing that really changed was the plant life and the animal life supposedly genetically changed, and that supposedly they were a lot bigger before the flood, and stuff like that. But as far as the waters and all that, waters above that are, in our atmosphere, that's why our sky's blue. I used to think to myself, why is the sky always blue? Duh. Water above the waters. There you go. Like, it makes total sense. So you have water above the clouds. And, and many Christian theologians want to say, oh, no, that was changed after the flood. Well, we don't get a Bible verse that says it's changed after the flood. And
no.
I really think that it's going to be there even in the end times, because hail's coming down from heaven, fiery hail. So that's like water and fire mixed together. So
you mentioned the animals changing. I imagine the plants did change too. I know weeds grew, and ferns and thickets and things like that. But for the animals, they ate nothing but plant life until after the flood, and at that point, they were changed to where there were meat eaters and plant eaters and omnivores, which is what man is. But in the coming kingdom, the reign of Yahuwah, it says in Yeshayahu, Isaiah, that the lion will eat straw like the ox, and the wolf will lie down with the lamb, showing that the entire nature of the carnivore animals will have changed, and nothing will hurt another in the entire kingdom. So that tells me that even mankind will be vegetarian. We will not kill
Yeah.
more animals for food.
Well, yeah, and the fact that there's no more death. So without death, you can't really be a carnivore. So I think that was like the one verse in Revelations. I was like, So I guess I'm gonna have to be a vegetarian in the new kingdom here, because there's no death, so that's no more animal sacrifices. So that means, yeah. So I'm not gonna be able to eat beef or anything like that because there's gonna be no more killing, and so there's gonna be no more war. That's why Yahuwah says, and I think it's that same chapter in Isaiah. He's like, they'll put their swords into plowshares. Nation will not rise against nation. So, there's going to be no more wars, no more violence. So, yeah, I definitely agree with the sentiment that we're going back to the original diet. And that's an interesting fact. I'm going to have to research that for myself. I did not know that the animals before the flood were vegetarians only. I did not know that. So I'm gonna have to look that up.
It does say in Genesis
Because I know
that
we were vegetarians.
Elohim gave us the seed-bearing plants for food. See if I can find it. I'm not sure exactly where it is, but it looks like it's Genesis 1:29. And Elohim said, "See, I have given you every plant that yields seed, which is on the face of the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed, to you it is for food, and to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the Shamayim, and to every creeping creature on the earth, in which there is breath of life, every green plant is for food." And it came to be so. So that's the way it was before the flood.
Now, my only question is, would that mean that that verse is applied not just to us, but to basically all his creations, that they're only to eat herbage? Because it seems like that verse is pertaining to Adam and Eve, seems like.
No, look at verse, let's see, 30. And to every beast of the, and to every bird of the sea, and to every creeping creature on the earth, everything in which there's breath of life, every green plant is for food.
Huh.
That's what it says.
Yeah, it's just weird because, like, let me see. I'm going to share with you why I'm having trouble believing that it's not just for Adam and Eve. If I go a couple of verses earlier, as you can see here, you have verse 28, which Yahuwah is specifically talking to Adam and Eve, where he says, and Elohim blessed them, and Elohim said to them, "Bear fruit and increase, and fill the earth and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over all creatures moving on the earth." So he's specifically talking to Adam and Eve in 28, and then it says, and Elohim said, see, I have given you every plant that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it is for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, to every creeping creature on the earth in which there is life, every green plant is for food. Oh, okay, so it's actually both. Okay. So actually we're both right. Okay. So he first speaks to them, specifically saying that that's their food, but in the next verse he says it's also for the animals. Okay, so we're both right. All right. I just wanted to make sure because I saw that verse before and I'm like, wait a minute, he's specifically talking to them. I just wanted to check my tracks here. All right, so that's pretty interesting. So I learn something new every day. I read Genesis 1, I don't know how many times, never realized that all animals were plant eaters at one point, which really makes me question the carnivore dinosaurs. Really makes me question where they came from.
You know, Ross has a theory that they were part of the era created back when the Malachim sinned. And they came down and messed with our wind and gave birth to giants, and they started messing with every creature until the creation was a mess, and it's getting that way. And Yahuwah cleaned it up once, but it was still not totally cleaned up because there's still been Nephilim on the earth ever since. And now that the knowledge of the fallen ones is coming back, and mankind, sinning mankind, is accepting this knowledge and using it, we have the chimeras being created, part man, part beast, part plant, part you know what. I don't know what. And then there's the artificial intelligence, which can be possessed by the wicked spirits. So they can possess the bodies of the chimera, who are not supposed to be, and they can also possess the artificial intelligence, which now become so advanced. According to Anthony Patch, he was talking about the D-Wave computer, which can think faster than we can and store more than we can, and yet it is based upon the human brain and uses a like it's similar to human DNA the way it's created. I don't know the whole thing about it. We should have Anthony Patch as a guest and have him talk about it, because this is here now, and these evil spirits that are coming out of the deep are going to possess this artificial intelligence, and we're going to have havoc on this earth like it's never been before. Because we also have chimera, the beast, half and half, who knows what. And then there's the Nephilim that are still here, the they call them Bigfoot or Sasquatch, but a lady the DNA on them, and it came out that they have to be Nephilim because the female line, the mitochondria DNA, is 100% human, and the nuclear DNA is unknown, which is what you would expect for a fallen Malakim or fallen Malik to produce with a human female. And they have been producing amongst themselves all these centuries and millennia, and they're still here. And only the Bigfoot, but you have their cousins, like the giant of Afghanistan that was killed by our military. And I don't know if it was one or two, because between the man by L.A. Marzulli and the man found by Steve Quayle, they give very similar stories about a giant being killed and being airlifted out of the desert of Afghanistan. It may be two separate incidences, or it may be one, according to them. And they would also be interesting guests to have if we are able to do that. But yeah, we're in for a bumpy ride when this great tribulation hits us in full, because when mankind sees these things coming upon the earth, it says they will faint, and you'll see every man bent over, clutching his loins like a woman in labor. They'll be so frightened. And it will happen suddenly, with a warning for the people who do not know Yahuwah. For those of us who know him, we know what's coming, and we need to be right with him in order for him to count us worthy to escape.
Hallelujah. And it was really good that you brought up the whole coming up out of the deep, because there was a smoking commercial I saw a while back where it actually depicted like these weird like Nephilim monsters coming up out of this black goo swamp. And I started thinking, like, you know, is this like a metaphor for the bottomless pit? Like, you know, how it talks about the beast will come out of the sea. So you have these like Nephilim, like almost in the commercial, it looks like they looked like Venom from Spider-Man. Like, these guys just looked really demonic, like just coming up out of there. And this was supposed to be a commercial to stop people from smoking. Like, make people think like these are demons going into your lungs. And so it was like a really weird commercial, but the spiritual part of it was like, you know, this could be real. This stuff, these entities are going to come out of, you know, the bottomless pit, whether it's, you know, a bottomless pit that's just of dirt, or whether it's like a swamp or a sea type of bottomless pit. That's where they're coming out of. And it was like, it was just so creepy. It was like Revelations 9, but in a commercial.
It's
So,
amazing where the Book of Enoch will send us sometimes. We eventually go from one thought to another, and end up in Isaiah and Daniel and Genesis.
Enoch just goes from one end to the other.
It does.
So we are on, let's see,
29.
29, yeah.
I'll read.
Okay.
And then I went to another place in the desert and approached to the east of this mountain range. And I there saw aromatic trees exhaling the fragrance of frankincense and myrrh, and the trees also were similar to the almond tree.
Wow. So that's a short little two-verser there.
And
And
I love the way it says the trees exhale the fragrance of frankincense and myrrh, like they're breathing.
Like to each other.
well, the earth can swallow up water, so I mean, just saying. The Revelations 12 said the earth swallowed up the water that the dragon spewed out of his mouth. So
Yeah.
I think
You're opened its mouth and swallowed up the water.
and the shame really came to my mind too with this. This is why there's such a deception in paganism and in Gaia worship, because there's a truth to that this stuff's alive, and they're living beings, but the problem is that Gaia turns it into like worship. They start worshiping these creations instead of the creator, which Paul talks about in the book of Romans. He talks about how they would worship the creation instead of the Almighty who created it. So I don't know, that just came to my mind. So we got chapter 30. Which I guess I'll read. Let's see here, there's only 3 verses. And beyond these, I went far to the east, and I saw another place, a valley full of water. And therein was a tree, the color of fragrant trees, such as the mastic. It's a weird name. And on the sides of those valleys, I saw fragrant cinnamon. And beyond these, I proceeded to the east.
My verse is the gum tree. The color of fragrant trees, such as the gum tree.
And Laura, you have what version of Enoch? Is it the Hallelujah Scriptures one?
Yes.
All right, yeah, okay. I kind of like that better than what the what R.H. Charles puts for that name. Mastic, I don't know what that means. Like, some type of old English. So it's interesting how these chapters are just briefly talking about the creation and describing these trees and these valleys. A lot of cosmology in the book of Enoch. So very interesting. So whoever wants to read chapter 30, we'll probably read a couple more chapters since a lot of these chapters are only 2 or 3 verses each. So whoever wants to read chapter 30, just...
Isn't that you just
Yeah, you can make
Really just pretty good.
Go ahead, Shoshana.
This one has a lot
Dennis is trying to find out if his has got the same chapter as we do.
Okay.
I
But-
think this is
If it's
And
not
beyond
30, then it might be 31.
Just read mine.
okay. That might be. Chapter 30. And beyond these, I went afar to the east, and I saw another place, a valley full of water. And therein there was a tree, the color of fragrant trees, such as the mastic. And on the side of the valley, I saw fragrant cinnamon. And beyond these, I proceeded to the east. Okay.
Well, that's very interesting. I wonder what color they're talking about. There's a question mark there. It says color of fragrant trees such as the mastic.
Huh.
The valley was full of water, and I guess it grew in the water.
Yeah, this is another roasted. So like I saw another place, the valley of water, never roasted.
And the fragrant tree evidently grew inside the water.
It says that I perceived a goodly tree. Its smell resembled the mastic tree. And towards the sides of these valleys, I perceived cinnamon and its good odor. Over them, I advanced towards the east.
So what's interesting in my version, it says in 31, chapter 31, and I saw other mountains, and amongst them were groves of trees, and there flowed forth from them nectar, which is named Sarara and Galbanim. So what stood out to me was it says groves of trees, and I started thinking, I'm like, and
That's your rose.
these groves are probably the same groves that the Yashrulites were, worshiping false gods to. And so this kind of even hints to me that
That's 31.
I thought that's the chapter we read was 31. Maybe I went,
No, you told me.
oh, whoops, my bad.
I think it's 29 in here.
Oh, my bad.
We
I
should
didn't-
have 31.
Oh, whoops, my bad. All right, well, I might as well read 31 then. And I saw chapter 31, and I saw other mountains, and amongst them were groves of trees, and there flowed forth from them nectar, which is named Sarara and Galbanim. And beyond these mountains I saw another mountain to the east of the ends of the earth, whereupon were aloe trees, and all the trees were full of stacked, being like almond trees. And when one burnt it, it smelled sweeter than any fragrant odor. And that's the end of 31. So I find it interesting that the groves, I guess, even in our regular scriptures, the groves always referred to this place where all the trees are, and how Yashrael always like hoard, themselves, to false deities at these groves. And I don't know, that's what I got off of the first verse, is maybe that's the groves that are spoken of in the Torah a lot. So that was pretty interesting to me. And it kind of shows where you get the origin of Christmas and all that, because it always referred to them worshiping at the groves, and obviously trees are at the groves, and in the prophets it talks about them, going under every green tree. So I don't know, that kind of sparked something up when I saw that verse.
I'm not sure this is talking about those kind of groves, because it says they're very fragrant and like almond trees or something, but the ones that they talk about scriptures about, the groves that they worship in, these were the Ashereth. And it doesn't really explain what Ashereth trees are. Only they worship the Queen of Heaven there, and Ishtar, and
Bohemian Grove in California.
and they bake some kind of bread or loaves, cakes, to the Queen of Heaven. And there's some terrible noise in the background. I apologize. It's not.
I can barely hear it. It's not even it's not really even coming through, really. I hear you and Dennis fine, so that little bit of background noise can barely be heard. So no problem.
Okay, thank you. I could hear it very loudly. It bothered me. It's from somebody who's not converted and rents from me. But anyway, it's interesting, these places that Enoch is describing, because we don't really know where they are in at least in the case of these groves of trees. Except it says, beyond these mountains I saw another mountain to the east of the ends of the earth, whereupon were aloe trees, and all the trees were full of stacked, being like almond trees. Now, where is east of the ends of the earth? Maybe the ends of the earth is where the heavens meet the earth. Like where the dome is.
Mm-hmm.
The dome meets the earth.
And
well, you also have four corners of the earth.
Yeah.
You have where the pillars are of the earth. So that's possibly what it's talking about. I also heard that, I don't think we got to it yet, but somewhere later in Enoch, it describes that the ends of the earth are covered with ice. It's like, because, people always say, oh, if the earth was flat, you would fall off the edge, but the edges or the corners of the earth is actually covered with, like, ice and covered
Yes.
with, so that could be what what it's talking about. What it's always saying, the ends of the earth. It could be the edge of the earth. It could be the corners of the earth.
East of Antarctica.
Yeah, the Antarctica, I think, I forget which edge it's at, but I know it's at one of the edges, one of the four corners of the earth.
I think it goes all the way around the circle of Earth. From what I understand, the ice encircles the entire Earth. There was a man who set out to find out how far the ice went when he went to Antarctica, and he sailed forever. I think he sailed for weeks on end until he finally gave up. I don't remember how many weeks he said he was sailing, but it was quite a long voyage, and he never came to the end of it. So I think it does go all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go check the oven. It looks like it's on, and it's been on for a long time.
All right. So now we have chapter 32 of Enoch. Okay, so let's see here. Let's see. Has everyone read yet? I know Dennis has. I have. Shoshana has. Laura has.
You want me to read again?
Sure. Yeah. So let me just mute myself. We're at chapter 32.
And after these fragrant odors, as I looked towards the north over the mountains, I saw 7 mountains full of choice nard and fragrant trees, and cinnamon and pepper. And then I went over to the summits of all these mountains, far towards the east of the earth, and passed above the eastern sea, and went far from it, and passed over the messenger. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Zotiel or Zotial. Yeah, whichever one you prefer, El or Al.
Okay. And I came to the garden of righteousness. Wow. I saw beyond those trees many large trees growing there, and a pleasant fragrance, large, very pleasant and great, and the tree of wisdom, of which they eat and know great wisdom. That tree is in height like the fir, and its leaves are like the carob tree, and its fruit is like the clusters of the vine, very lovely. And the fragrance of the tree penetrates afar. And then I said, how lovely is that tree, and how good to look at. Then Raphael, the Kodesh messenger, who was with me, answered me and said, this is the tree of wisdom, of which your elderly father and your aged mother, who were before you, have eaten. And they learned wisdom, and their eyes were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they were driven out of the garden. Wow.
So this is very controversial because someone can take that as, well, why was the tree of knowledge of good and evil bad to eat then? Because according to what this according to this chapter, someone can interpret that as, it seems like it was good wisdom, but the problem is, whose wisdom were they getting? And really the way this Malachim is talking to Enoch is kind of the same wording Satan used. It's like, or the same wording it's used in Genesis where it says, Eve saw that the tree was good for fruit, it was pleasing to the eyes, and to make one wise, and she ate of it. So it's almost like the same wording. And so, yeah, their eyes were open, but what knowledge did they get? It wasn't set apart knowledge.
Well, as Rob Skiba has been known to say, they already had the same things that the devil offered them. What he offered them, they already had. I mean, they had a relationship with the Father who could tell them whatever they wanted to know. And what better source of wisdom than he?
Isn't that kind of like buying a license for something you already have?
Yeah. Something like that. So we don't need the wisdom that comes from free. We need the wisdom that comes from this book. This book. And I think Enoch is part of that book.
I think there was always certain things we weren't supposed to know. That's why Yahusha, he actually commended, I believe it was the Assembly of Philadelphia he commended. He said, I give you this one thing, that you have not known the so-called secrets of Satan. And that could be part of what Satan was offering Adam and Eve, was this knowledge that only the hosts of heaven were given to know. And, and possibly that Yahuwah knew that if we had that knowledge, that we would corrupt it, we would not be able to handle it. And, really that's what happened in Genesis 6, was that not just the hybridization, you had knowledge that we were not ever supposed to know. And it was used for the destruction of mankind. I mean, if it wasn't for the Watchers telling us this forbidden knowledge, we wouldn't be having wars. We wouldn't be having this, having that. Men putting makeup on themselves. I mean, so.
How to make weapons of war.
So Yahuwah, he honestly, he pretty much put restrictions on that tree for the good of them. He wasn't trying to be mean and be like, oh no, I don't want you to have your eyes open. That's what the stupid Gnostics believe. That he's some mean old Father Time fella that didn't want Adam and Eve to have knowledge. And but that's a whole nother study. Why they believe the complete opposite of what the Bible really teaches.
No discernment.
But yeah, and honestly, I actually wanted to put that cross-reference up here. Because that is a very...
Are you talking about what the messenger says to the assembly in Philadelphia?
Yeah. Let me see here. I think actually Yahusha himself actually says this, because even though it's the Malachim or messenger saying it, I think Yahusha actually speaks through him directly when he's saying this. Let me see here. It's Revelations chapter 2, verse 24.
It's chapter 3, verse 8 or 7 and 8 and talks to the Philadelphia
Oh,
assembly.
okay, never mind. That it's not Philadelphia is talking to you. It's actually Thyatira. Okay, so this is Revelations 2:24 says, "But I also have a message for the rest of you in Thyatira who have not followed this false teaching." And in parentheses, the NLT says, "deeper truths as they call them, depths of Satan. I will ask nothing more of you." The ESV says, "But to the rest of you in Thyatira who do not hold this teaching, who have not learned what some call the deep things of Satan, to you I say, I do not lay on you another burden." And let's see what the King James has to say. "But unto you I say, and unto the rest in Thyatira, as many as have not this doctrine, and which have not known the depths of Satan, as they speak, I will not put on you another burden." So it seems like the reason I brought up that verse, it seems like it's a good thing not to know certain things. Seems like Yahushua's like, all right, well, you haven't, learned this forbidden occult knowledge. I'm glad you at least haven't done that. I'm not going to put another burden on you. So, I think that's something for us to take heed. And that's why I'm very, very careful when I do research that I don't go too far in the rabbit hole. I don't know, start going into stuff that Yahusha doesn't even want us really getting into. And that's just what I feel like that verse is actually saying.
Isn't
I was going to mention that the assembly in Philadelphia, what he says about them, I didn't see that at all. What I saw was they are set apart and true and have the key of David, and he who opens and no one shuts, and shuts and no one opens, says this, I know your works. See, I have put before you an open door, and no one is able to shut it, that you have a little power, yet have guarded my word, and have not denied my name. See, I'm giving up those of the congregation of Hashatan who say they are Yahudim and are not, but lie. And I am making them come and worship before your feet, and to know that I have loved you. Because you have guarded my word of endurance, I also shall guard you from the hour of trial which shall come upon all the world to try those who dwell on the earth. See, this group of people is the group called the woman in Revelation 12, which is why I wanted to read that. And
I just wanted to add, for any of the viewers, if they don't know the meaning of the word Philadelphia, it actually means brotherly love. So it's actually very fitting that he named that assembly that name. If you want, we can read Revelations 12.
Go for it.
Seems like we're always coming back to it.
Yeah, that seems to be where
I've done that several weeks.
where we've been. Maybe we are at this point in prophecy or close to it. I think we're getting close to it anyway.
It says the whole chapter, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, starting at verse 1. "And there appeared a great wonder in the heavens, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in the heavens, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of the heavens, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was to be born. And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto Yahuwah and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared of Yahuwah, or by Yahuwah, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his Malachim fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his Malachim, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in the heavens. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world. He was cast out into the earth. Into the earth, and his Malachim were cast out with him. So that's interesting. So again, a hollow earth idea that he was residing in the earth. That's interesting. And I heard a loud voice saying in the heavens, now is come salvation and strength and kingdom of our Elohim, and the power of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brothers is cast down, which accused them before our Elohim day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and you that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knows that he has but a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was angry with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of Yahuwah and have the testimony of Yahusha the Messiah. That is the end of Revelations 12. A lot of interesting stuff in that chapter. I like the talks about the salvation of our Elohim has come, the kingdom has come. So it's almost like a paraphrasing of what Yahusha was preaching when he was on earth. He's like, the kingdom of Yahuwah is upon us. So it's very interesting that initial time period when he came to be born of a virgin on the earth, and some of the stuff, seems like it was stuff that was happening around that time, but also it's future, because it's talking about the remnant of her seed and the woman. So it's very interesting.
I have a song that I wrote about this chapter, basically from verse 13 to verse 17, from the time the dragon's cast out to the end of the chapter. And I'd like to play it if you be interested. I
Yeah,
have to find
sure.
it first.
Find it.
Yeah, sure. Let me just pause this recording while you're trying to find it. All right, we are back on the recording, and Sister Shoshana has a song she would like to share with everyone. So I will be putting my share screen on to help follow with her on here. And okay, let me try to get to where she wants me to be here. See here. Okay. All right. So this is where her song starts, and this is a song she made herself. She wrote herself, and this is pretty much the song sheet, which technically I'm not really good at because I was never really good with following a song sheet, but we'll see how this goes. So whenever you're ready, Sister Shoshana. All right. So should be starting soon. So I hope we have no technical difficulties over here. Um, Everything okay with you guys? What's going on here? Let me pause real quick. There seems to be something going on. So we're back on, and we're gonna go back to where we were. All right. So I got the song sheet right here, and we're about to have Sister Shoshana sing one of her songs that she's written herself.
What's the name of it?
The Woman in the Wilderness.
So the name of this track that she created is called "The Woman in the Wilderness," and she actually has a pretty cool album photo for the song. It's pretty cool. All right, so
It's directly from Revelation 12, verses 13 through 17.
yep, Revelations chapters 12, verses 13 to 17.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll start playing. And the dragon was cast out from Shemayim unto the earth. Where she persecuted the woman who gave birth to Mashiach, Yahusha HaMashiach. And the one was given two wings of a great eagle, a great eagle, a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she's nourished for 3.5 years, away from the snake. But out of his mouth the dragon spewed water like a river to cause all men to be swept away, but she is delivered. She is delivered. For the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the river. Yes, the earth opened its mouth and the woman was delivered. A miracle occurred. Now the woman is safe from harm in the wilderness with Hamashiach. Yes, the dragon was cast out from Shemayim unto the earth, where he persecuted the woman who gave birth to Mashiach, Yahushua HaMashiach. But the woman was given two wings of a great eagle, a great eagle, a great eagle, where she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for 3.5 years, away from the snake. Luke 21 verse 36 says, we must be counted worthy to be protected from Satan the dragon and be delivered. She is delivered. For the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the river. Yes, the earth opened its mouth, the woman was delivered. A miracle occurred. Now the woman is safe from harm in the wilderness with Hamashiach. For the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the river. Yes, the earth opened its mouth, the woman was delivered. Yes, the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the river. The earth opened its mouth, the woman was delivered. The woman was delivered to Mashiach, Yahushua. All right, let me stop this. Okay.
That was a pretty good song, though.
Thank you.
The song sheet just had me a little confused because the order was just a little bit scrambled. So I was trying to follow with what you're singing with the order that's on the song sheet. I was like, whoa, okay. This is getting confusing.
Yeah, I did it from memory because I knew you wouldn't be able to do it. Because there's I think 11 or 12 parts in that song. there's 4 vocal parts, and there's flute, a piccolo, a piano, a guitar, and some percussion. I think there might be, a bass too, a bass player, a bass guitar.
So.
But like I say, it comes straight from Revelation 12 and verses 13 through 17.
Except you don't do 17.
No, I didn't mention the fact that the remnant, he goes after the remnant of her seed. It's just basically the story of the woman. The woman is delivered to Mashiach. And you can find that in Luke 21:36, which says we must be counted worthy to escape all that's about to come upon the earth and stand before the Son of Man, Ben Ha-Adam, who is our Messiah. So that's the scriptures that it comes from.
Yep, and the remnant is talking about the remnant of Yashraal, because the woman is pretty much symbolized as the 12 tribes. That's why she has the 12 stars in verse 1. For the 12 tribes of Yashraal, and she pretty much symbolizes Yahuwah's bride. Yahuwah made a marriage covenant with Yashraal in Exodus. So pretty much that woman that Revelation 12 is talking about is pretty much, the all 12 tribes of Yashraal being his people, his bride, his assembly, and that a remnant from that is what Satan's coming after. He's coming after a special group within that. And I don't know, that's kind of how I look at it, is that the remnant is, a remnant is basically a small few out of Yashraal that he's looking to persecute, he's looking to kill, destroy, and it's basically a small group of people, because remnant usually means something that's left over, like small scarcity,
Well, in other words, if I may, the woman is those who guard the commandments of Yahuwah and possess the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach. And the remnant also are guarding the commandments of Yahuwah and possessing the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach. But the remnant is not counted to escape, because only those counted worthy are sealed. And if you're sealed, Revelation chapter 7 says, and there's 144,000 of the woman who is sealed. And those are the ones who escape to the wilderness. Luke 21:36 is a very important verse that explains how we have to be counted.
It says pray at all times that you might be counted worthy to keep all the things that are coming upon the earth. And so,
and to stand before Yahushua HaMashiach, Ben Ha-Adam. That's an important part, I believe.
Very important.
because it says not only pray but watch at all times. Be watchful, mindful at all times, and pray that you be counted worthy to escape all this about to take place and to stand before Ben Adam. And those who are counted worthy by Yahuwah will be carried to the wilderness. And it says on eagle's wings. But I know our forefathers were supposed to be on eagle's wings, and they walked across the Reed Sea and through the desert until they came to the Promised Land, and spent an extra 40 years there because they didn't believe Yahuwah was going to deliver them from the people, the giants in the area. So, but that's what the song. That's what the song's about. It's about the woman that is delivered to Mashiach in the wilderness.
And it's very possible that this time we will be carried, by, Yahusha's his Malachim, his angels.
Yes.
Because he himself says in Matthew that his Malachim will gather his chosen, his elect. So not just talking about like one group, but like all of his chosen from the four winds of the earth, and that also they will gather out those that cause stumbling. So that's kind of like the parable of the sower. That's pretty much the parable of the wheat, where it talks about the tares and the wheat, and talks about that first the Malachim will gather the tares and throw them into bundles, and so it could be the same concept that the children of the devil have to be thrown into the furnace first, and possibly after that the Malachim gather us, and the whole angel.
I have another song called "You Will Know Them by Their Fruits," and it goes into that. It talks about he will gather up the tares and throw them into the fire, and throw the wheat into his barn.
When the wheat and the tares start growing up together, they look the same.
The difference between the wheat and the tares is basically what it.
Yeah, he says, let them grow together until the time of the harvest. And basically, it's the same concept of Yahusha saying, Father, don't take them out of this world, but, allow them to remain in the world. So we're even though we're not of this world, we're, Yahusha's will was actually for us to stay in this world, to, be witnesses to others and pretty much be salt and light.
At the beginning of the Great Tribulation, and I do believe right at the very beginning, right at the sudden destruction, just before it, is when he will gather his wheat, take them out to the wilderness, and that will be for the final 3.5 years, like it says. For 3.5 years, she is nourished away from the dragon. Yeah, and we have a very short time before I think that will take place. I think this sign that was seen in the sky may have been there to tell us that we have a short time
Yeah.
to be counted worthy. You know, we can only speculate and do our best, but this is what I think.
Yeah, I think that sign was pretty much just to me it was just another wake up call. It was kind of like Yahuwah like literally pointing to us, being like, okay, well, you know, you guys need to get ready because, you know, it could be happening soon. I mean, I look at it like it could happen at any point in time from now until, you know, whenever. Like you know, I'm not going to say I fully believe that it's right around the corner, but I also don't believe it's going to be that far away. So I'm kind of like in the middle with the timing of the tribulation and when it's going to start. It could start within the next year. It could start in the next couple of years. I really don't know. All I know is that whenever he gives a sign, usually it's a wake-up call. And usually it's like, all right, you know, you guys are supposed to be at my assembly. Like, you guys need to wake up because, you know, if this tribulation happens and we're not awake, we're spiritually asleep, we're going to end up like those 5 virgins that had no oil, you know?
Yes,
So,
that was the remnant of the seed that's left here to endure the great tribulation.
and it's very interesting, too, the 5 virgins that were foolish were not allowed into the bridal chambers. It's very interesting when you look at that parable and what it means in that the 5 virgins that were wise that had extra oil with them were allowed into the groom's chamber, but the other 5 weren't. And you know,
That's right.
you know, so Yahushua always, always talked about the kingdom, how there's greater and lesser, and you know that's a reality that
We
I
have to be vigilant, I think is the word.
yeah, vigilant,
Diligent.
minded.
Doug, look up Song of Solomon's 1, verse 3.
Chapter 1, verse 3.
Song of Solomon 1, 3.
Because of the savor of your good ointments, your name is as ointment poured forth. Therefore
The
do
name.
virgins love you.
The name. The oil is the name.
Wow.
Those who esteem
For fragrance,
will be in the
your oil.
kingdom.
Yeah, I see the verse. Let me see if I can put this on share screen real quick. The verse that Laura brought up to me was Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 3 says, because of the savor of your good ointments, your name is as ointment poured forth. Now, the savor, Yahusha also refers savor to, our works being salt and light. So, Yahusha could possibly be talking about this too with the 10 virgins, that the savor of because of the savor of your good ointments, your name is as ointment poured forth. Therefore, do the virgins love thee. So your name is as ointment. So possibly Yahuwah's name could be the ointment or the oil. And, it's possible, but I also think that there's more to it than just his name. Even though his name is important, I think it's more of his word in general. I think when you look at the whole story of the parable of the 10 virgins, 5 were foolish. Now, you look up the word foolish in prophecy, Daniel calls those that keep on sinning foolish. He says that the wise, I mean, same terminology, the wise shall understand. There's two groups Daniel's talking about.
Look at the verse underneath it.
He's Daniel, I think it's Daniel chapter 12, it says, the wise shall understand, but the foolish shall keep on doing wickedly and shall never understand. And so when I look at the parable of the 10 virgins, even though I do admit that Song of Solomon might have a connection, I think an even bigger connection is what's the difference between the two groups of virgins. One is obviously doing something to make themselves foolish, number one, and number two, what makes someone wise when it says, 5 were wise. So I believe the oil has a lot to do with you, who his word, and it could be, his name could be a part of it. I'm not ruling that out. But I think in general, his commandments, his word, the other 5
His spirit.
did not have his word with them. And that
Perhaps spirit, his ruach, is the oil.
because I truly believe in the end times there's going to be a scarcity for his word. There's going to be scarcity. Those that don't keep the oil, his word, his law with them are going to run out. Then they're going to ask from the people that are wise, that always kept his word in their hearts, oh, can I buy some? Or give me some. They actually said, give us some for free. Give us some of your oil. And they were like, no, you're going to have to buy your own. And so, they ended up buying their own, but it was too late. The bride came and went. I mean, the groom came and went, so that the parable of the 10 virgins also is to watch and be ready. Because, you might be able to get that oil, but are you going to have it when he comes? And there's so many lessons in that parable. It's also be ready for his return. Don't be like, oh, I can accept the gospel tomorrow. Oh, I can accept the gospel the next day. He's.
I think it may have to do with how close we are to him in prayer. Because when we pray and are connected to the Father, and we have confessed our sins and asked for forgiveness, and he forgives us, then we are cleansed, and that way his spirit can freely flow within us. And those who have his spirit freely flowing, I can't talk, freely flowing within them, I believe, are the ones that are considered wise. Because if you withhold sin of any type and don't confess it, then you don't have his spirit flowing through you. I believe that's just the way it works. That's how it seems to me anyway, and that the oil is the spirit.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the when I saw at the end of that parable talking about, I don't know you, depart from me, I started thinking about it. Could these other 5 virgins also be ones that, claim to do all these works in his name, but never really, kept the commandments? And, you because it seems like there's that same terminology from Matthew 7 where he's saying, you workers of lawlessness, get away from it. So it's like the same type of terminology, like that. The five virgins that he tells them that he doesn't know them. It's possible that they could have not been obeying him, and I don't know. That was just something I've thought about in the past.
Well, if he calls them virgins, they have been obeying him. But we all stumble. We all have ups and downs and trials in this life. And I think when we stumble and don't repent right away, we lose some of that oil.
He refills us.
He has to refill us daily, renew us daily through prayer.
Well, oil's also anointing, I believe, also in Scripture. Oil's always used as a metaphor for anointing. So, if you think about it, there's certain people in Scripture that technically lost anointing. King Saul, I don't think he was Yahuwah's anointing for his whole life. David does call him Yahuwah's anointed, though, when he's given the opportunity to kill him. But still, it seems like at a certain point, Yahuwah's not really with him. At a point of his life where he takes his own life, it seems like Yahuwah's really nowhere near him when pretty much he hit rock bottom. So
yeah, it can happen to him. It can happen to any of us.
So
that's why even Paul, remember, he said, I who have preached to you could fall away and lose my crown. And so this walk is such a serious walk. It's it's narrow. It's like walking a tightrope, because you could fall to the right or the left, and if you don't get up and grab hold of Yahuwah, confess your sins, and that's why Yahusha did what he did. If he hadn't have gone to the stake and died for us,
No hope.
There would not be hope for any person.
no, because there would be no corruption taking on incorruption. That without that we can't be saved. I mean, physically we can't. We're in bodies that are Yahusha says himself, flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom. Like literally, like a carnal.
Our great high priest.
So
and he intervenes for us. He intervenes between us and the Father. And
then we get power from the Father.
we have to come to understand that our Messiah did a tremendous work for us.
The whole
world. For anyone who comes to him and makes covenant with him.
I think this is so important about the name. There's only one name given under Shemaim by which we must be saved. We have to know that name.
and we have to make covenant with him.
Yes, contract
That
agreement.
covenant is most important. And then when we stumble, we have a great high priest who understands
Intercede.
our human frailties, and he does intercede for us. And I'm very grateful.
Absolutely, yes.
Very grateful.
Extremely so.
So, do you guys want to continue, or do you think it's getting a little late?
About 1 o'clock.
Is that late? If it's if it's as late as you say, I think we got through chapter 41 or 32. I think we did 32.
Yeah, we did 32.
So we did good.
All right. So let's see. We got 33, and okay. So I think I'll read 33. And from there I went to the ends of the earth and saw there great beasts, and each differed from the other. And I saw birds also different in appearance and beauty and voice, and the one differing from the other. And to the east of those beasts I saw the ends of the earth whereon the heaven rests, and the portals of heaven open. And I saw how the stars of heaven come forth, and I counted the portals of which they proceed, and wrote down all their outlets of each individual star by itself, according to their number and their names, their courses and their positions, and their times and their months. As Uriel, the set apart Malachim, who was with me, showed me. He showed all things to me and wrote them down for me. Also their names he wrote for me, their laws and their companies. So, interesting. Yeah, verse 1 kind of reminded me of Daniel a little bit, where he says beasts that differ in appearance. I was just thinking about the 4 beasts of Daniel, and so that was pretty interesting. The portals, which are very...
It's the creation. Creation differs so much. I mean, there's so much beauty in all the things that have been created.
How much more beauty there was then than there is now.
Yeah, and we will see it again
Oh, yeah.
in the kingdom.
Restoration.
Mhm.
It's really hard for us to imagine it right now. Because man, through his sin, has just wreaked havoc.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine those messengers being so sinful, teaching men how to murder each other.
Yeah.
And what's interesting too is it says that the stars have their courses, their positions, their times, and their months. So it's very interesting.
Their gates.
It's very interesting that Uriel told him the names of the stars. And I started thinking about the book of Psalms, where it says that Yahuwah gave them all names. So let's see here. Chapter 34 and see what chapter 34 says. Enoch's journey to the north. And from there I went towards the north to the ends of the earth, and there I saw a great and esteemed device at the ends of the whole earth. And here I saw 3 portals of the heavens open in the heaven. Through each of them proceed north winds. When they blow, there is cold, hail, frost, snow, dew, and rain. Interesting. And out of one portal they blow for good, but when they blow through the other 2 portals, it is with violence and affliction on the earth, and they blow with violence. So that's kind of interesting. All these portals and stuff, like, it makes me wonder, like, you know, who is creating these portals that supposedly you're seeing, you know, at the Vatican telescope and all that, and you know how are these portals coming about in the atmosphere?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what were they looking at through that big telescope they named Lucifer?
Yeah, that's another subject.
Yeah.
It's interesting because supposedly through these portals weather comes through, and it started making me thinking about like HARP and all that and what they might be trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. What they are doing.
Huh. So anyway, that was a pretty short chapter, just like the next one is. So I think we're good to at least read the next chapter. And
Yeah, it's very short.
yeah, I think after that we'll make an ending prayer. Let's see here, let me just write down the chapters that we've read so far real quick. So we went from 25, and now we're about to read 35. Not bad. All right. So,
Yeah, this is a real quick one. I'll take a lot.
yeah.
And from there I went towards the west to the ends of the earth, and saw there 3 portals of the heaven opened, such as I had seen in the east. The same number of portals and the same number of outlets.
3 portals. At the other end of the Paparitz.
Mm-hmm. That's in the west.
Yeah.
All right. So,
I wonder if these are weather portals also, or something else.
Now they can plug in the blow drive.
I don't know, but it's weird. The 3 is being repeated.
Yeah.
That there's 3 portals. So, very interesting. So, on that note, I think we will be ending the study for tonight. And is there any specific prayer requests from anyone here?
I would like,
I pray Yahuwah makes our souls ready.
yeah, that's a good one. But I would like to just comment right quick on the great, magnificent device. The device at the ends of the whole earth. What is this device? From there I went towards the north to the ends of the earth, and there I saw a great magnificent device at the ends of the whole earth. And that's where he saw the weather portals. Is it a weather device?
A bunch of antennas, HARP.
I
don't know.
I don't know. It's just it was just an interesting thing that jumped out at me. What is that referring to?
And actually, we do know that the Catholic Church, they read all this stuff. They'll actually duplicate stuff in Scripture to make prophecy come about. Alberto Rivera brought that out, showing the Pope with the cross that was bent backwards.
The bent bow.
Yeah, bent bow. Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, yes, they read that and they made that.
They are the white horse.
Yeah.
False teaching.
Yeah.
They know it. They know they're
know
false
who they
teaching.
Of course they know.
Interesting. All right. Well, for all who are listening in, this is the end of our study for tonight. Tune in next time as we will be continuing in Enoch in chapter 36. This is Doug, my sister Shoshana, brother Dennis, and sister Laura. Have a great rest of your Shabbat.